like, someone comes up to me and they're like, hey man, I saw you in class, like, you did pretty good. What's your name? And I'm like, oh, Steven. And then they're like, oh, yeah? Do you have, like, an Instagram? And I'm like, no. And then they're like, oh, you have like a Kakao Talk or like a phone number? And I'm just like, no, I have to go to the bathroom. And then I go to the bathroom, and then I never talk to these people again. And then I like see them in class like the next day, and I'm just like, and then like the teacher is like calling names, and then like they're like, Bowman. And then I'm like, yes, I am here. And then like the person I told, like, I was like, they're like, I thought your name was Steven. And I'm just like, oh yeah, no, it's just like the teacher calling me Boomhan because I have to go to the bathroom. And then I go to the bathroom. And then like someone else will come up to me, they're like, oh, I saw you in class, you did so good. And I'm just like, oh, thank you, you did so good too. And they're like, oh, we should be friends. I'm like, oh yeah, we should totally be friends. They're like, oh, what's your name? I'm like, Brandon. And they're like, where you from? I'm like, I'm from New York. And they're like, oh, that's so cool, Brandon. You have an Instagram? I'm like, yes. Because I said no last time. And they're like, oh, okay, you have an Instagram? Oh, that's so cool. Can I follow? Like, let me type it in. I'm like, oh, yeah. And then I take their phone. And then I start typing. And I'm like, oh, wait, I forgot it. Aha. And then I give it back. And you're like, what? Do you have like a phone number? And I'm like, I forgot. I have to go to the bathroom. And so I was like saying goodbye to everybody. Like on the last day, they're like, oh, goodbye, Brandon. And they're like, wait, I thought your name was Steven. What? No, that's definitely Terry. And I'm just like, aha. You know?